Hi, I'm Pete, and welcome to Just a Few Acres Farm. Well, the Dexters are finally out on spring pasture, and it was a tough decision this year because the grass growth is lagging behind what it would normally be at this time of year. In this video, I'm going to talk about our difficult decision and how we made that decision, how we got our Dexters out on pasture from their winter yard, what we do with the bulls during this period of time, and how they're all doing. And also, we have one new calf, so stay tuned. Normally we wait until the grass is 6 to 8 inches tall to turn the cattle out on pasture for the spring. And normally that time is now, but the grass is running way behind. It has just started growing and there isn't much for them to eat. At the same time, we time our calves for that start of pasture grazing season so that they're born on clean ground. Well, we had our first calf last week and it was born in our winter pasture, which is pretty muddy. And I don't like that at all. So Hillary and I faced a difficult decision. We talked it over. We've got like 5 more calves due in the next 2 weeks, and I do not want to have them in the mud. There's always the risk of them drinking from a dirty puddle and catching something from muddy teats on their mom. So we decided to turn them out even though the grass isn't quite ready. Getting the cattle out involves some prior planning. The first thing I have to do is fix fences for the spring, and I showed that in an earlier video. I spent about 2 days going around fixing broken insulators, fixing broken wire, getting all of the undergrowth off of the wire so that this fence is super hot for when the cows come out. This fence now, and I tested it yesterday, not on purpose, but it will arc about 1/4 inch with a hot blue spark now. That is a hot fence, and that's exactly what I want to train the cows to the fence for the year when they come out on the spring pasture. The next step was to trap the bulls in the barn, and that's kind of a waiting game because the bulls are going to do what they want to do. Hi, Titus. We have to wait until they come into the barn from the winter pasture, and then we can close the system of gates we have in here. And I'll cover how that bull separation works for breeding season a little bit later in this video. After the bulls were caught in the barn, we moved a stock tank out to the grove so that the cattle had access to water while they were on pasture. And we also brought out a round bale of hay because the cows need dry matter and fiber to supplement the protein-rich early spring grass. When it came time to let them out, they knew what was up and they were ready standing at the gate, and all I had to do was call them. Come on, cows! Come on, cows! All right, you gotta go this way. Yep. 2 cows had been headbutting since yesterday to establish dominance, and they continued it right through the move. They were the last 2 to come out, aside from Tulip and her 2-day-old calf, and they continued it as I moved them out. It's time for you guys to get out of the mud and go out on the clean grass. Easter and Bean, looks like you're about ready to give birth. Come on, come on. Come on. That's no way for 2 very pregnant ladies to be acting. Come on. Come on. Well, you're both swelled up in the back. Come on. Come on. Wow. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. Let's go. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. Last 2. Come on, Henry. Come on. Come on. Come on. Mom and her new calf were the last ones to come out, and I had to pick up and carry the calf and bring it out, and of course Mom followed. You are a straggler, little guy. Here's Mom and little guy trying out his first grass. Little guy learned how to run today. We tagged, castrated, and dehorned him yesterday, and it's a good thing because he's on his feet now. Letting cattle out on spring pasture is one of the most rewarding things about being a farmer. Letting them through the gate, watching them see the new grass, kick up their heels and start eating the first green grass they've had since last fall. I find that listening to the meeting is one of the most peaceful things. It's great to know that any of our future calves will be born on clean grass, the environment they were meant to be born in, and that the mud and everything will wash off the cows with the rains that we're supposed to have in the next few days. Those two will not give up fighting though.
They're both going to pop their calves out.
Yeah.
And they'll be fighting, and the calves will just come flying out the back.
Let's fight for a few minutes, let's eat for a few minutes. Now they're eating.
That's so funny.
Regarding our cattle's accommodations while they're on pasture, they don't have access to any shelter and they don't need it. They have access to the grove here, which is shady during the hot months. And this grove is central to the fields around it. So whichever field we open up to the cattle, they can always come back here, relax in the shade, get a drink, get some hay. Cows have a 9-month gestation period, just like people do. And the reason we need to keep our bulls separate is because we don't want our cows to be rebred too early. A cow will come back into heat after having a calf within 30 to 90 days, and it all depends on her body condition, how skinny she is versus how much fat she's carrying. If she has a good body condition, she'll come into heat sooner. We want our cows to be bred at the same time every year, and that's in August, so that they'll calve in late April through early June. So the bulls have to stay in their bachelor digs for the summer, which is this pen and the winter pasture. They're not happy about it. It's not ideal. Because we have such a small farm, we can't keep the bulls out of eye shot or smell of the cows, and it kind of drives them crazy, especially when they start coming back into heat. If we had a larger farm, we'd bring them to a remote pasture where they're out of sight and smell distance, and they'd be a lot happier there. It's just one of the realities of dealing with cattle on a small farm. Early spring grazing is a lot different than summer grazing. There's just not enough grass to set up our combination strip mob grazing system that we do during the summer. So we keep them moving fast, especially in light of all the rain we're going to get, and we don't like the cows muddying up the fields. We'll graze whole field all the way around here. And I expect that there's probably about 3 weeks of that in store for us, where we'll keep them on the field for a few days up to a week, depending on how much grass is in the field, and then move them on to the next. Once that happens, we'll be in mid to late May, and there is a big difference between late April grass and late May grass. By late May, the grass will be up to our knees, and we'll be dealing with trying to keep up with grass growth and starting to want to make hay. But that's our early system for spring grazing. We had a second calf yesterday. Our daughter Cora is our calf watcher, so she goes out about 10 times a day, looks at all the cows and see if there's any new calves. Well, yesterday afternoon, after we put the cows out, sure enough, there was a new calf. And that new calf belonged to Bessie here. Now, Bessie's not the greatest mom in the world, and the reason I say that is because quite often she loses track of where her calves went. Calves quite often will cross the fence line and lay in weeds like this because they're hidden and they can get some rest without the fear of being stepped on by another cow. So her calf is in here somewhere. I need to find it to find out whether it's a heifer or a bull calf, and so that we know what we need to do with it tomorrow when we tag and dehorn and possibly castrate it. So I have to go looking, which is not uncommon. I don't think I'm going to find it. It's laying around here somewhere. And it doesn't really matter that much. We'll find it in the morning and take care of it. So this is what Bessie tends to do, and Hillary says it's just like being any mom. You yell and yell for your kids when it's dinner time, and whether they come or not, you never know. Cattle are incredible lawnmowers, and I only hope we have enough grass to keep them fed till the growth really kicks in. Luckily, we have enough hay left over to keep them going for another month or so if needed. It sure feels good to have cattle out on grass again. It's one of the milestones we go through every year on a small farm, and it feels right to have cattle on grass. I'll be back on Tuesday with a video about loading up the last of our winter batch of pigs and taking them to the USDA slaughterhouse. Also talking about some of the USDA requirements for unloading animals and leaving them on site and how we have to have them cut. I hope you enjoyed this video. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time.